Yo, who is that surface dweller?
Nah, she's cool. Trust.
Be the fence.
Where I stand is against sorcerers. Why would you bring one here? And Nikaido, El Surfaso Duelo.
What?
They're gonna rat me out.
Oh yeah.
Dorohedoro is underrated, overlooked. Every word you can think of under the sun that basically means nobody's watching it for real. That's what Dorohedoro is. But trust the process. And let me show you why Dorohedoro is peak. So we see a Discord moderator's head inside of something's mouth. And then we find out that he's being chomped by an alligator or a crocodile. Low-key, I lived in Florida for like 8 years and I still don't know the difference between a crocodile or an alligator, but I'm pretty sure Florida had a lot of alligators. Or is this a lizard? But this random dude with an Usopp length nose is screaming out for his comrade. He gets kneed in the gut. We find out that his name is Fujita, and the one who's currently inside the mouth of a lizard, his name is Matsumura. And he's saying that there's somebody inside of his mouth. And that's when we see a face getting closer and closer, and he says, "You're not the one, pal." So Fujita tries to bum rush with some weird black smoke type attack, but it has no effect on the lizard. Fingers broken and her hands are in the position of a chopstick, and she hits him with a spin kick to the face and sends him flying through the sky. We find out that the lizard's name is Kaiman and the woman's name is Nikaido. Now hear me out. Throughout this vid, I may call Kaiman a crocodile or an alligator, and that's completely my bad. I forgot he was a lizard, but I'm just giving y'all the heads up so y'all don't call me wrong. After he takes Matsumura out of his mouth, he says, "Oh, what'd the guy inside say to you? Did he welcome you with treats and all that stuff?" Matsumura says, "No, he said I'm not the one." And that's when Kaiman pulls out his knife, flips it in the sky, grabs it, and he hits him with split gate and vertical cut from type soul. Kaiman is a kendo user, but before Matsumura goes, he shoots out some black smoke, opening a door for Fujita, helping him escape. But as they're walking to Nikaido's restaurant, Kaiman stops at an alley, and he says, "That's where the man cursed me and gave me this crocodile head." And Kaiman's wondering if the man inside his mouth is him or it's the sorcerer that cursed him. But we find out that there's two different worlds. You have the surface and then you have the hole. And in the surface is where all the sorcerers live, and in the hole, that's where all the bums live. But we see Fujita talking to his head honcho, and he's saying, "You got cooked, I'm not gonna lie. With that finger, you're not gonna go back to that hole and do anything. You're gonna end up like Matsumura." Get it? Cause he's dead. And then we see Kaiman and Nikaido at Kaiman's job, and they're analyzing people that got turned into monsters. Demi-humans, if you will. Like Ajin, like Yayo. If I caught that man Yayo on my turf, I'd do him like one of these sorcerers did these people in the hole. I told you I was saving a stray for you. But after Nikaido returns to her restaurant, she sees a man sitting outside saying he needs food, he's starving. And she decides to feed him because she's a W woman. But she's like, "Yeah, I just saw some people from the hole that this sorcerer turned into bugs, and that job was so crappy. I mean, me personally, if I went in there, I could do a better job, and I don't even know how to use sorcery." Like, that guy should honestly just quit, wrap it up. He should never show his face again. The guy she fed was the sorcerer who did it. But after Kaiman goes to Nikaido's restaurant for gyoza, he sees the guy sitting on the ground using his sorcery, and Nikaido on the ground, and he's saying, "Oh, I was just about to turn her into a bug. I met my quota. I can go home." But Kaiman tells him, "Oh, if I get you off of the map, I can save those 3 that you messed up, and I can get a raise." And after the sorcerer uses his magic, Kaiman just walks through the smoke. It has no effect on him since he's already cursed. And after he grabs him, he chomps his head, and the sorcerer is trying to escape, but Kaiman takes his knife and stabs him. And since he ends up killing him, he gets no answer. But since his curse didn't get reversed, clearly it wasn't this sorcerer. But hey, the other people's curses got reversed. But then we see Fujita talking to the head honcho again. His name is In, red-haired Vegeta, if I forgot to mention that. And In gives him some device made out of teeth, and he says, "If you find anything suspicious, that's who you need to be looking for." And he notices this person with the skull head, and he's like, "Oh, I walked past this person before." And Kaiman and Nikaido eventually see a door, and that same skull person walks out. And Kaiman says, "Oh yeah, real quick, I'm gonna need to take a chomp of your head if that's cool with you." So Nikaido spin kicks this sorcerer, and Kaiman sliced off the fingers while the sorcerer was spinning through the air. And after they catch the sorcerer and take the mask off, he sees that it's a woman. He's like, "Hey, I'm not judging. Maybe she did some gender bend sorcery on my body. So the person inside is like a different version of her, so I'm gonna take a bite real quick." And after he takes a bite, we see the face getting closer and closer. But Fujita enters from the door behind, and he's grabbing onto the sorcerer. And after eventually tugging the sorcerer forcefully out of Kaiman's mouth, her face gets torn off. But hey, she's still alive. But Kaiman never got his answer, so it could be the sorcerer who cursed him for real. But that's when we see Kaiman, and he's going through it. He throws up blood into the ceiling, and someone crawls out of his body. But it was just a dream, and he's been having that nightmare ever since he got cursed. But then we see 2 people tearing through an entire room of bandits. Shoot, she's slamming his head into the wall, and she did it to multiple people too. What could they do to make her this mad? But the girl's name is Noi, and the guy's name is Shin. But we find out that the people in the hole are truly treated like trash. It doesn't even rain on the surface, and the only reason it rains down in the hole is because the black smoke used from the magic falls down into the hole, and it's literally deadly to them. But we see Kaiman working his 9 to 5, and after he hits that lunch break ready to dive into his gyoza, he has to clean up more dead bodies. And we see what was really going on with Shin and Noi in that facility. They tore through each and every single bandit in that building. We saw this before. But when it comes to the final sorcerer in that building, they go to some old crazed man in a diaper. The old man asks Shin, "You wiped out all of my forces, but how'd you do it? I didn't even smell any smoke." Shin says that'd be bullying if I used smoke. They were too weak for that. And that's when we see the old man stand up, and he truly does have a diaper on, and he says, "Let's bang it out." But he gets off screen. And that's when the trash bag starts talking to Kaiman. He says, "I'm a sorcerer. Just open the bag and look at me." And all he asks for is Kaiman to kill him. So Kaiman throws him in the fire. But after Shin and Noi are done with their job, they decide they have to go back to Inn. But that's when Shin says, "I'm trying to go on a date real quick. You want to eat?" She gets excited, throws the bag open, and we see what happened to that old man. That is what Shin's sorcery does. And then we see Ebisu and Fujita, and let's just say Ebisu is messed up. Her face is all patched up and she can't even function anymore. But we see Shin take off his mask and we see his true face, and we see Noi as well. And I'm not gonna say anything because Bucket has Splash and Nanton X could be watching this video, but if you know, you know. But In goes over the plans for them during dinner time, and he's saying basically there's this crocodile looking dude and this pretty strong girl. You need to get them off the map, and they're ready to sign that waiver to go straight down into the hole and cook both of them, because after he heard that, he's excited. The two sorcerers who can use transformation magic turn into Kaiman and Nikaido to give them an example, but it turns out they were assassins. He's like, "You guys gave me liver. I only eat mushrooms." So they up weapons at him instantly, but In opens his mask and we see his sorcery. He turns both of them into mushrooms, and he's like, "Oh yeah, everybody at this dinner table, what you guys have been eating are actually humans." But we see Kaiman and Nikaido at this restaurant, and they're talking to whatever this guy has going on with his head. Just know a sorcerer did this to him. And he's looking at Kaiman, he's saying, "Dude, look at your face, bro." He has no right to be talking about anybody's face. But he tells them there's someone that specializes in acupuncture and he can change your face. I'd go there if I could. But Kaiman and Nikaido come to the conclusion that this could be the person that changed Kaiman's face. But they set up camp, and that's when Nikaido decides to go out to get something so they can eat, and she gets stopped by these thugs. And she tells them, "I'm broke. There's nothing you want to steal from me." But he points the blade to her face, and she says, "Well, I guess I'm gonna just have to kill you guys." So after she throws her bag to the side, she kicks up her skateboard and kicks it in his face. And yeah, I mean, he's not breathing after this one. She dodges and catches the blade at the same time, uses her hand to knock it out of his hands and send it in the sky. And after she hits a spin kick to his face, I don't know exactly how she did this, but an eyeball goes out flying, and I can't exactly show this, but just know, yeah, that's brutal. Even the guy on the ground said, "Bye, eye," because his own man just stepped on it. He could have got that re-implanted or something, I don't know. But after the spear lands, Nikaido catches it and hits this one with the Kill Bill. Yeah, and the one who lost his eye, he just runs because he doesn't want the smoke for real. But Nikaido and Kaiman finally end up going to the club, and they find the guy who uses acupuncture magic, and in a heartbeat, his head is in Kaiman's mouth. After taking him out, he's like, "Oh, so what the man inside say to you? You're not the one? Alright, cool, I can kill you now." But that's when he's like, "Nah, I could change your face for real. Just let me try, don't kill me." And we think Kaiman's face is changing for real, but no, he's just shedding because he's a reptile. But that's when we see Shin's door open, and they're about to meet with Kaiman and Nikaido.
Two tools, my bird farm. The time is now 11 p.m. in Toronto. Two tools, if you don't get your act on properly, the zombies will wipe you off of this map. Make sure to kill every zombie so you can cash in and get your rewards. 9 nines will be Las Vegas for the next 12 hours. Happy hunting.
But before Shin and Noi go to their next job, she has to fix Ebisu's face. And back down in the hole, zombies are coming to life because of the smoke from the sorcerers accumulating down in the hole, and it causes supernatural events to happen. But they see this as a carnival, so Nikaido and Kaiman are trying to get a meat grinder for better gyoza. But as Nikaido and Kaiman are tearing through the zombies, Shin, Noi, and Usopp decide to do the same thing on another side of the field. And somebody from the hole's talking to them saying, "Did you guys already hit the other side?" They're like, "Nah, we've just been on this side." And they're like, "Oh, there's some cleaners here as good as you." And that's when Shin shouts out, he's like, "Oh, that ramen looks nice. You got it from the 7-Eleven?" And Nikaido says, "Watch out, don't rush in." Kaiman rushes in. He singles out Shin, and Nikaido's forced to fight Noi. So Kaiman rushes in and he gets his punch blocked, and he goes in for an attack with the knife but gets it blocked with the hammer. He's getting cooked by a grown-up handy mandy. And after Shin throws him back, he knees him and leaves Kaiman on the ground. Nikaido spin kicks her in the gut, sending her flying back. And you know, with that big body, if she's sending her flying back, there's definitely some weight and some power behind this kick. Nikaido follows up with a kick and gets blocked, but we see that this damaged Noi because even she's saying, "You've damaged my organs," and she coughs up blood. But after Nikaido steps back, Noi hits her with a critical attack, but she blocks it, and she grabs her arms to flip up and kick her in the face, but it does no damage. So Noi grabs her leg and swings her through the air like Hulk, and after she drops her mid-air, she hits her with a punch mid-air, air comboing her on the street, and sends her flying all the way to Kaiman. And after Kaiman sees what they did to her, he bum rushes, but he gets every single attack thrown out blocked. But then he's like, hold on. He goes for a paralysis attack but gets blocked by the hammer. I don't even know what you call this thing, but I know you use it to rip out nails. And after breaking his sword, he stabs him in the side of the head, and Kaiman falls to the ground. But out of nowhere, Shin gets stabbed, and we see Kaiman climbing up, and he ends up taking the chomp. But when he's inside of Kaiman's mouth, and the person inside of Kaiman says, "You're not the one," and that's when we see Shin removing himself from Kaiman's head. His mask is being torn, but he's like, "I'm gonna have to take you off the map now. You're a threat." So he takes off his crocodile head, and through the blood in the sky, we end up seeing eyes staring at him. But that's when Nikaido gets up to grab Kaiman, and we find out that she's a sorcerer because she opens a door to get them to safety. And yeah, Shin passes out because he still had a knife in his body, and Ebisu's trying to eat Shin's body because she became a zombie. But while Kaiman's recovering,
Oh yeah, you know Nikaido's actually a sorcerer?
bro, what are you talking about? She's not a sorcerer. She would have told me that. And Kaiman gets his old head back, and they decide to dissect it. But before they do, Nikaido tells him how she exactly found him. And she says, "Oh yeah, you know that Roblox item, Headless, 30,000 Robux? You know you can only really get it during Halloween? I saw something like that laying in the back of an alley. So I decided, let me, put a body bag on it. But when I came back, I saw that same body walking towards me. But while dissecting his head, when they open up the mouth, that's when the lights go off. And when he looks around, he hears a voice say the darkness. And then we see a figure with something in his hand, and it walks away. But when they return back to the room, his old head is missing. But Kaiman has no recollection of when he was a human. He doesn't know what his face looked like. He doesn't know what his name is. And he's really just trying to find that out. But when Shin is flying within, yeah, their names rhyme, he asks Shin if he remembers what the person inside of Kaiman's mouth looked like. And he's like, "Oh yeah, he had a red cross pattern on his eyes." So In is ready to get them off the map. He says, "Let's go to my friend Turkey." So when they're in the room with Turkey, Turkey says, "Give me some of your smoke and I'll make that doll real quick." He brings out a platter and it has Noi on it. Splash, if you're watching this, don't put me on the list. It's a part of the plot. But Turkey explains to them these dolls will go to where the original person is. He ends up making a doll for the person inside of Kaiman's mouth, and they end up following the doll around. And then he takes the train back to his apartment. But Ebisu calls for Usopp, and she's holding a box. And that's when the doll grabs her by the head. Shin and Noi rush in the room, and yeah, I think Ebisu died. So Shin punches him in the face, knocking the turkey juices out of him, and he hits the ground. But the doll gets right back up and equips his weapons. After jumping in for the chi points, he knocks the box out of Shin's hand. But Shin grabs his attacking arm, then his other arm, and gets a headbutt to the dome. The classic shonen protagonist move. But after that headbutt, Shin gets very angry, and he puts his fist through his chest. But after Shin breaks open the box, a head rolls out. An old man's head too at that. But he tells Noi, "Yo, do your magic," and it turns into the original head. But they meet up with In to go to another place. At this event, you bring a dead body to watch it be resurrected. I would not eat a single bite, a sniff. I wouldn't even walk in the room because I know it already smells rank, like Jay Bullen's armpits after he hezzies his 5th Wendy's nugget and decides to bask in his sweat for another day and not take a shower and just eat more food on Instagram Live. Was that too far? And after the two people hosting the event walk out, they end up reviving one of the corpses for everyone to see. And N's like, "All right, we can get to work now. That's gonna be my partner right there, so let's go bag her." But we see Ebisu walking, and this dude sticks his arm out from around the corner with a balloon in his hand. "You are not the GOAT.
Come here. It's a balloon. I got helium in me."
And she actually follows the balloon. And I'm not sure what this man had in mind, but he spikes her drink. Good thing he died. But we see the host of the party, and he's saying, "Eat that powder." But mushrooms sprouting up outside take her outside of the window. And after Shin and Noi enter the room, he drops powder on his arm, eats it, and sends an amplified attack at them that they dodge. And after he sends another attack, blowing Shin's arm off, Noi regenerates it mid-fight. And Shin jumps up and off-screens him. But on inside of things, he looks at the person to be his partner, and he sees black powder, and he turns her face into a mushroom. But he finds the true sorcerer that's bringing life, and In has a pet now. And they find out they don't exactly know the sorcery Nikaido uses, but back in the hole, Nikaido and Kaiman are looking for a doctor that studies sorcerers. But when they enter his house, they find out that the building works like Beatrice's doors. And eventually they give up to eat lunch. Kaiman says, "Promise me you'll always be my friend no matter what happens." And that's when Nikaido tries to tell him, "Oh yeah, there's actually something I've been meaning to tell you." And out of nowhere, the doctor's sitting there eating gyoza with them too. And he's like, "Oh yeah, come here real quick. I'm gonna show you my experiment. I've actually been working on a sorcerer's door and I replicated it. You wanna go through?" After Kaiman readies all his blades and stands in his LeBron made outfit. That don't even look similar. I just wanted to say that he's in a bunny outfit though. And after they arrive, Kaiman's ready to tear through each and every single sorcerer. He sees Aladdin from Disney Universe and he's saying, "You want to get on my magic carpet?" Yo, that game was so gas. If you played it, you know game. I'm not talking about Disney Infinity. I'm talking about Disney Universe. 2 different games played on the PS3. It was gas. But we see Ebisu and Usopp being bullied. He gets stopped by these 2 clowns and they're bonking her on the head, beating up Usopp. "You haven't gotten back from Matsumura yet and you replaced replaced him. But after he hits one with smoke and tells Ebisu to run, he gets a boot to the face. But after the Joker says, I'm gonna make sure you can't use smoke again, Noi walks up behind him and splits him in half with her hand alone. And Shin punches through his chest and shows him his heart beating right in front of him, moving like Killua. And they push both of the guys together and look at Ebisu and Usopp and say, a bully sandwich. This has to be the craziest thing I've ever seen. And back on Kaiman and Nikaido's side of things, Kaiman chomps on his head. The person inside says, yeah, you're not the one. So Kaiman stabs him and throws him off the carpet, steals the carpet, steals his house keys, and crashes into the ground. But we see the sorcerer inside of Kaiman's mouth come back to life. And after Kaiman walks to the bathroom because that drink was no good for him, we start seeing random flashbacks. And back on inside of things, we find out that the guy with cross eyes, his name is Risu. But Nikaido notices somebody that has cross eyes leaving the bar, so they decide to follow him. But Shin and his crew are already in this building.
So let me in on this secret. You telling me you actually know him?
Sure thing. We got something we gotta settle with your boss.
Alright. Okay, cool.
Point a gun at both of them now!
But after they shoot and Noi takes the bullet, a goon runs up with his gun and gets no diff by Shin. And after they let off bullets, he throws out his smoke to block. After the head goon runs in, Shin dodges, grabs his arm, and brings the hammer to his neck. He tells him goodbye and no diffs him. But we find out that the boss is already dead. But Kaiman and Nikaido make it to the scene when Shin and his crew already leave. And they're like, what happened here? They smoked everybody in the room. But since Risu's up and at it, Kaiman's saying his memories are coming back. We need to find a man named Risu. But Kaiman and Nikaido decide to split up to find information, and we see that they gave Risu a mecha suit, and they're interrogating him, and he's saying, nah, I don't remember a thing. I died instantly. Who's the lizard head guy in the hole? Never heard of him. But we see Nikaido at a store, and she hands the storekeeper the purest smoke you could ever get. And after he says he'll give her everything for this smoke alone, she says the money will do. Then she grabs him by the collar and throws him through the wall, destroys the smoke, and leaves with the money. She had no reason to do that. She could have just robbed him from the jump. And she spends all of this money to conversate with the devil, and apparently this devil already knows her. But she's saying she doesn't want to use magic again. Do you know anything about a lizard head guy though? He says, nah. I do know where he is though. He's at In's palace. You want a portal there? So while In's still having a conversation with Risu, he gets an alert saying that someone infiltrated the building. And that's when Noi bum rushes her with a kick, but she flips flawlessly over that jump. She had no reason to do all these movements midair. She could have simply just hopped back. And Noi and Nikaido are going blow for blow right now until Nikaido gets a kick sending her flying back. But she waits till Noi gets closer. And after Noi uses a critical attack, she catches both of her arms, kicks her back, and cuts her eye. And after Noi rips her mask off, by the time she looks up, Nikaido's already gone. But that's when Nikaido looks over and sees Risu, so she jumps through the glass all the way to the other side. And as In walks in, he's like, hey, are you okay? Everything alright?
I'm doing just dandy, pal.
Nikaido crashes in through the window and grabs his arm, but Nikaido punches in the mouth, breaking his mask and sending him flying back. And after Shin bum rushes, she dodges and swings off the chandelier. But In got angered from this attack, and he's saying she's gonna have to pay. We see mushrooms growing out of his blood, and he sends out black smoke summoning mushrooms, and they destroy the building. And obviously Nikaido flees. Risu finds out that he was killed by a cross eyes member. Shin lost his lower half. It turned into portobellos, and Noi knocked him out, so he stopped spitting out black smoke. But when Nikaido makes it back to Kaiman, she has a mushroom sprout out of her back. But Kaiman decides to take Nikaido back down to the hole, and she has surgery done on her by doctor and young man over here, and she ends up being a-okay. And the doctor gives him the backstory of Shin. He's like, oh, 10 years ago he was down here in the hole with us. Actually, his mother was a sorcerer, so they killed her because there was an organization called the Neighborhood Force, and they took sorcerers off the map. And one day when Shin was working with his father, he cut his hand doing construction, and black smoke particles were found in that blood. So yeah, the construction worker snitched on him, but Shin's dad protected him so he can make it out. And that's when Shin's dad told the Force, my wife was a sorcerer, you don't have to worry about him, he's not a sorcerer. And they're like, oh really? So when Shin eventually makes it back to his home, he sees that they've killed his dad and just left him there sitting. And they're calling Shin all types of names, saying we knew he would come back because kids are stupid. And after they're talking about how they're gonna celebrate after they turn him in and kill him, they don't do that because Shin quickly makes quick work of both of them. And they put out bounty posters all around, and all the neighborhood force that tried to stop Shin, they couldn't because he tore them up too. But the doc and Kusakabe saw him just sitting in there with no arms, and they're like, yo, what are you doing? So they help him find his sorcerer's nose so he can use magic, and they patch him back up and say go on with your day. And his path also crossed with Nikaido because she was selling gyoza from a young age, bitch. He stole some and ran. And after all that was said and done, the neighborhood association disbanded. But after Kusakabe hands him the pass and he says only advanced sorcerers can get this, Kaiman's like, yo, what was Nikaido doing with this? She's not a sorcerer, but she is. But that's when we see a figure in Nikaido's room and Kaiman says he heard a scream. So he goes after her chasing and loses sight of the body, but he's back at that same alleyway he lost his head at. And he says it's a dead end, but he notices that there's a sewer open. And he's asking himself, why isn't Nikaido resisting? And he has a flashback of Kusakabe telling him, you know, every time a sorcerer talks about rain, they turn into Roy Mustang. But as Kaiman's chasing down Nikaido, he gets tricked and he sees a gigantic cockroach stand up behind him. I don't even know if this is a cockroach, but it's something. Keep the Converse on the cockroach's feet too. And Kaiman tries to cut him, but his knife breaks and he gets knocked into the sewage water and all he's seeing are dead bodies. And after he gets his shoulder bitten off, he runs off screaming. And after he pins this random man to the wall, he calls for Johnson and that same cockroach appears. And he's saying, with enough of these black gems, I can become a sorcerer. But oh, she didn't have any, so I'm gonna check you for some. But when he walks closer, Kaiman cuts off his legs and throws his leg and says, Johnson, fetch, like he's a dog, and he actually fetches. And he's talking about the day that Kaiman lost his head. The woman was there, but before he can get any information out of him, the man dies. But we see Ebisu and Usopp at a gravesite, but they get a boss call saying they need to go back to headquarters, and red hair Vegeta is telling them a smoke shop owner died. But in the shop they found Ebisu's smoke and they're deciding to send that in to find out what her true magic is. But since Usopp still doesn't have a partner, Vegeta sent out some requests. Nobody accepted them. And Ebisu might low-key be my favorite character. Like at first it was Shin, but she starts making fun of him saying nobody likes you, you're not popular, as he walks away sad. But since Risu escaped, they need to find him, and In already put a transmitter on him so they could. But Usopp decides to go back down into the hole because he decides, I'ma just find the lizard and kill him myself. And Ebisu follows him, W partner. But they end up finding out what Ebisu's magic is until the guy who has it throws it and it cracks against Noi's skull. And that's when she begins to transform. But at the baseball game, this man Usopp has to strike out his own friend's corpse. So the new plan has shifted from killing Kaiman to getting his friend's corpse and going, because they're literally using his corpse as Jackie Robinson to play against him. He doesn't even currently play baseball. Let me say Ronald Acuna Jr. or something. Gyoza loving boy, before he goes up to hit, he's like, Kaiman, hey, is Nikaido off limits? You know, because she's kind of bad and I'm trying to get with her. So he looks back to try to impress her with his next swing and hits a grounder. Yo, if that was me in his shoes, I would have hit a home run, knocked that junk out of the park. But Usopp is hyping himself up. He's saying, on this next pitch, I'm going to strike Kaiman out. I'm going to make a fool out of him. All the pitches I've missed today, I'll destroy this one. And Kaiman hits the craziest home run of all time, splitting through a wooden beam. All because of Gyoza boy. But he throws his first pitch, almost killing her. And when he throws the next one, she hits it one arm style, sending it flying to the old man and knocking the dentures out of his mouth. But back at In's mansion, we see that the door guard actually died and that Noi became a monster. She cuts off his mask with one swipe and he hypes himself up. He's like, alright, I'm gonna give it all I got. He runs up, gets grabbed by her tail, and she slams him into the wall. And after he impales her throat, low-key he looks like Naruto with those 3 scratches on the side of his face. He gets a bit of his torso split out, but he ends up tanking this attack. And In's like, I know one person who can help her, but I really don't want to go to this dude. And the bird head says, oh, we could fix her in a heartbeat. And they end up reviving Noi. But we see that Matsumura went out of control and he threw Usopp across the room, hitting a chandelier. But Ebisu lets out all of her smoke and she transforms and she leaves nothing left of Matsumura. I mean, it's just bits of him. But she says she remembers. And we see a flashback of the person inside of Kaiman's mouth saying that she's the one. And yeah, Matsumura cannot come back to life. And as a result of Kaiman being up there where the sorcerers live, he's starting to get his memories back. But Kaiman quit his job at the doc's office and he asked Kasukabe if he could take his key and go back to the sorcerer's world. But since Kaiman has no money, no job, he's sitting up there on the surface, starving, sitting on a corner. But Kaiman notices someone getting picked on by Disney bullies. But the guy getting picked on, his ally comes to help, but he's still outnumbered. So Kaiman walks in there and shows them how they get down in the hole. He uses the first one's knife to stab himself, and then he pieces up the next one and slams his face into the ground. And after he backhands the next one, the last one runs away. He got too scared. So they decide to feed him for free. But after they take his mask off, they see that he's a lizard. But then they say sorcerers were practicing on other sorcerers. You get a pass. You're not someone from the hole that sorcerers went down to practice on. That'd be so dumb. And Kaiman ends up getting hired. But we see Risu return to his original apartment. He remembers when he was talking to the cross-eyes chief.
You got a mission, young man. We're definitely not trying to backdoor you and leave you in the back of some alley.
And he got backdoor and left out dead in the open. But we find out about the Blue Moon event. And this is where sorcerers pick their new partners. But Vegeta doesn't want the bird to be his partner because he's still looking for the sorcerer who can control time. Kaiman has to stay back at the restaurant. Of course, he's not going to do it. He wants to go to the Blue Moon event himself because all of the sorcerers are going to be there. So after he gets on his dishonored stealth mission, he takes out one of the guards and takes his disguise. But he gets called to do maid duties. He's not even on guard near the sorcerers. But when it comes time time to find their partner. Somehow Usopp got two. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know who wants to pair up with Usopp unless it's the Straw Hat crew, but Shin and Noi are worried because they're saying if that man applied, we're about to get split up. All the sorcerers are permitted to kill each other because if they really want that partner, they're gonna have to get it through force. And when Noi is in the bathroom saying, I can't run in these heels if that guy's gonna be chasing me, I need to be on my A game, she gets blown up out of nowhere and we see someone walk out of the stall. But In is notified that they found remnants of smoke from someone who could control time, and it's in that same smoke shop where Nikaido killed the smoke shop owner. But after Kaiman runs out the bathroom, tearing off his disguise, he gets hit in the head by Sparky Boom Boom Man and decides to chase him. But we see Shin walk to where Noi was attacked, and he dodges the first few syringes shot by some random sniper and deflects the rest and hides behind the wall. But as the sniper is shooting at Shin and he's dodging every bullet, he led him right where he wanted to, and he shoots out the chandelier made of syringes, and they land on top of Shin. But Usopp asks Vegeta, how did In and Noi become partners? And he says it actually started a long time ago. See, I was chilling with one of the big three Naruto. We were eating ramen, and this is how you exactly make that ramen. You're getting sidetracked. Oh yeah, so basically Noi is actually my cousin, and Shin was trying to dine and dash, and they were going to have a sorcerer battle over the food, but she saw Shin's arm and she's like, I gotta heal you real quick. And after she heals him, he knocks her out and he runs away, and he ended up getting a job with Vegeta as a hitman. But at this time, Noi was undergoing training to become a devil, and when she made it to the final stage of going a year without using her magic, they got attacked by Sparky Boom Boom Man and the man with the syringe with the sniper. Shin tells Noi to run, but she says, nah, I got that brute strength in me, I'm gonna fight alongside you. So Noi grabs a gigantic boulder and smashes Sparky Boom Boom Man, and Shin hits the other one with the boom. But after they think they won, Sparky Boom Boom Man goes for a final shot and blows Shin's lower half off because he decided to protect Noi, and she decided to heal him so she couldn't become a devil, and they became partners. But we see Shin being bagged up, but as Kaiman goes to eat gyoza, Sparky Boom Boom Man's partner knocks it out of his hand, and after Sparky Boom Boom Man goes to blow him up and sends him flying back, Kaiman's co-workers step in. One of them throws a meat bun to throw off his next shot, and the boss runs in with a 1, a 2, and a 3 to the face, letting him go to a slow motion frame. Kaiman goes back to the gyoza stand. He says, yo, you got a knife I can borrow real quick? We got something going on over here. So he runs up and cuts off his explosion hand, cuts him in the side, taking out some of his torso, and that ends up blowing up Sparky Boom Boom Man. The doctor pulls out a pistol and is about to shoot Kaiman, but the co-worker with the food magic turns him into a meat pie. But Risu ended up freeing Noi on accident because she ended up being put in a box where she couldn't regenerate, and as Kaiman and their co-workers go around deciding to sell the meat pies, he crosses by Risu and he has a feeling, but they keep it pushing. But we find out that Usopp didn't really get 2 applications. He submitted one of them himself, but Ebisu submitted an application to be his partner, W. Ebisu. This is why she's the best character. But In finds out that the same person who killed the shopkeeper, that same person who has time magic, is Nikaido down there in the hole. So while Nikaido, the doctor, Kusakabe, even Johnson are chopping it up, Johnson made a cake. They taught him how to bake. She says she's gonna look for Kaiman, but out of nowhere, a mushroom sprouts out of her back. And when the doc tries to fight the mushroom, he gets his back grabbed and he gets spilled and melted until he turns into a mushroom. And after Johnson, the goat, bum rushes, knocks one of his eyes out, takes his arm, Kusakabe slides in to take the doctor, but Johnson gets knocked down. But Nikaido throws, and I'm gonna guess here that this is hot sauce, I'm literally just assuming, hot sauce at In's mushroom, and they run to a new room. She has a flashback of the devil Atsu giving her a mask, and he's saying, if you're getting cooked in a fight, just put this on your face and you're chilling, trust. So after the monster kicks down the door and starts walking towards the rest of her comrades, it's looking like it might be wraps for them. Nikaido drops down and jumps with a kick to the face, sending the mushroom to the wall. After looking at the mushroom, he shoots out more of his magic, but Nikaido dodges it. She uses the ceiling to push herself into the monster, hitting the double knee Robin move. And after she steps back, she hits one kick to split him in half. The mushroom's blood turns into a door and sends them directly to In's mansion. But after Nikaido is in In's mansion, Sans the devil flies in the room. They left their house just to come here, by the way. They're not supposed to leave the house. And yeah, 13's head gets turned into a mushroom. But yeah, they open up the sorcerer's chest, take a piece of their heart, sign their signature on it, and put it back in. And they forced Nikaido to do this. She had no say, by the way. But they all get thrown in jail. But Kasukabe is standing 10 toes strong. They're beating him, and he's saying, my motto is to stay chill. But we see Kaiman, and he has blood on his hands, so he decides to go wash them. As he's walking down the hallway, he sees blood coming out of a door. When he opens that door, he sees a dead body. But after that, the phone starts to ring. He picks up the phone and he hears a voice saying, don't go to my house. It's just there. And eventually Kaiman can't breathe anymore, and we see someone popping out from around the corner. But Kaiman wakes up and it was just another one of his nightmares. But the boss notices that Kaiman left the house and he follows him and he says, you gotta tell me what's going on. You've been coming to this park a lot. And he basically tells him the entire story of how he lost his memory, and the boss says, cool, I'll help you. So they visit one of the cross-eyed members in jail, and it is his execution day. They brought him meat pies so he could eat them before his execution because that's all he wanted. Well, guess what? Kaiman chomps his head. The person inside says, hey, you're not the one. But the cross-eyes member notices that it's Risu. But before it's too late and he can explain exactly what's going on to Kaiman, he starts getting dragged to his execution. Kaiman hops on too, but that's when Atsu flies through and splits off his leg, so Kaiman lets go, and he tells Kaiman Nikaido is in In's mansion right now, so if you want to go save her, you know, I'm just letting you know, throwing that idea out there. But they say they have to run a cart in In's mansion, so like if you want to come with us, that's free entry, you know what I mean? But we see a cockroach. Since Johnson can speak to bugs, it frees him from his shackles, and it ends up freeing Kasukabe too. But when they look for Nikaido, she's already gone, and we find out that Nikaido's completely brainwashed, because if you make a contract with somebody, they can literally control you. But while Usopp and Ebisu are having a wholesome moment, his bag gets stolen, and they turn over and see Kasukabe robbing a vendor at gunpoint, and he's telling Ebisu to transform because they need to get them off the map, and she transforms into a skeleton head, and that's when Kasukabe points the gun at them. But Noi pins Johnson to the ground. Kasukabe tries to shoot Shin, but he dodges and cuts his arm off. But then he takes off his mask and he's like, oh wait, you're the dude who saved me in the hole. But we find out about In's backstory. As a baby, he turned his parents into mushrooms. He wasn't even nursed as a baby, he nursed himself with mushrooms. But someone arrived and robbed him, and since there was only mushrooms, they stole the baby, and he was forced to work in a factory, just giving up his black smoke since he was a talented sorcerer. But once they found no use for him, they dumped him in the Mississippi River, and since it was considered to be a corpse, he got sent to hell. But since he was so angry, he had so much rage in his body, he found out a way to survive in hell, and he was eating his own mushrooms. So they took him out, and he decided to go back to the factory, and he turned all of the workers into mushrooms, and he decided to free all the people working in that factory, and they joined his family. But then an opposing gang, the Red Cross gang, they were killing sorcerers and leaving them with no heads. They took all of In's gang away from him, and that's when In decided, we're gonna have to step up our game. We need to infiltrate them and take them off of the map now. So he sent in Shin and Noi, and after he speed blitzed them and took both of their masks, out of nowhere they bum rush him and they take him off the map. But all of a sudden time gets frozen. He stabbed both Shin and Noi at the same time and cut their torso, and they were backed up on a wall ready to die. They said, I guess this was our destiny to die in this room. But In low-key knew Shin and Noi couldn't make it out, so he decided to go himself. But even when he saw the cross-eyed member, he was like, yo, this guy's a threat, I gotta kill him now. So that's how the entire mushroom incident happened, because he didn't just turn that building into mushrooms and everybody in it, but he turned the entire city into mushrooms. And he thought the cross-eyed member was dead? No, he sees him headless leaving in a door. And the reason In was searching for a sorcerer who could control time is because he wants to go back to that day and get the job done. But on Kaiman's side of things, he's pretending to be the boss man's wife. There's an event where they sell food from their cars, and whoever wins gets to open up a shop in In's district. They're gonna be getting mad business. The business will be booming. But yeah, the doctor's alive, Kasukabe's all good. They made amends with Shin and Noi, but Kaiman walks away and he decides, should I even save Nikaido at this point? But that's when he sees her and he completely changes his mind. The boss man's opposition is a girl who used to like him, but since he didn't like her back, she quit and opened her own stand, and she's seducing everybody to win. Yeah, that was a quick scam because she was using something named Angel to make her food, so her food already wasn't the greatest. So when she ran out of magic, the boss man stand won. But Kaiman ends up seeing Nikaido alone, and the boss man is generous. He says, yeah, you honestly haven't done jack for us, but I also haven't paid you, so go save your woman. But when Kaiman says, come back to the hole with me, she's like, nah, I really can't. And he's like, okay, bet, I'ma just have to take you by force. And she's like, nah, you really can't. We see a flashback of Aikawa and Risu. Risu's a little thug and he's running with the Red Cross gang, and before the deal is made, he slices off this man's nose. He rolls over the table with a kick, and this old man pulls out his sword. I don't know if he thinks he's Takamura from Sakamoto days, but let's see if he cooks up. That's one miss, that's another, and he just got cut. Never mind, Risu blocked the attack and they leave the building. He tells him to stop running with that gang because that's just not good for you, and this is why Risu is continuing his search for Aikawa. And Kaiman obviously doesn't want to fight Nikaido, but she says, are you scared to hit me because I'm a woman? I'm staying within, and that's final. But when she starts the attack, he dodges, and Kaiman blocks the follow-up. After she rushes back in, he blocks 1, no 2, no 3 attacks without even trying, but then she grabs his head to jump into the sky, and she comes down with a Beyblade type spin move and kicks him into a pillar, destroying it. After she rushes back in, Kaiman dodges the first attack. She jumps off the pillar and he dodges the kick, but she tells him use that knife. He blocks her bum rush and dodges her spin kick, and she hits a Tekken combo, but he dodges all 6 attacks from her. She couldn't even touch him. But to finish the combo, she splits his shirt and it lets his gumballs fly out, which don't really matter because those gumballs were prosthetic. I don't even know why I gave a play-by-play on that. But after he tries to hit the Disney protagonist, "This isn't you, stop fighting me," she says, "In's enemies are my enemies." And he's like, "That's not you saying that, but I guess I'm gonna have to get serious." So she runs in with a jump and a few useless spins in the air before coming down and getting blocked. Did all of that for no reason, by the way. Kaiman hits her with a critical attack to the face, sending her flying back, telling her to wake up. And even she gets up, her nose is all bloody. But after she flicks off the blood, we already know what's about to happen. And we see the bird head praying for Nikaido to be killed. But that's when Kaiman gets sent flying through the wall and landing into the statue and hitting the ground. And his big body broke the statue, so it crashes down on him. And that's when Nikaido drops him with the knee to the gut, making Kaiman cough up blood and sending him to an even lower floor. And Kaiman's having that same memory, that same dream of someone calling the phone and saying, "Don't answer it," because he's there. And as we see Kaiman crawling away because he's heavily injured, we see that Nikaido drop down to the floor too. She's really about that business. She does not want him to walk on this earth again. But he looks in the mirror and he sees Risu, and Risu's saying, "Are you gonna kill again?" And out of nowhere, she gets stabbed in the back by a mysterious figure hanging on to life by a thread. And that's when Atsu, Loki the goat, pulls up. And Nikaido's still alive, so he decides to save her. But the contract is also out of her body now, so Birdhead takes it. And this means that Nikaido and In temporarily aren't partners. And we see the side effects of In because he gets knocked out. But if In finds Nikaido and sees her again, that contract will be formed again. But after Nikaido's up and walking again, she says it wasn't Kaiman who stabbed her. It was someone she's never seen before. But Kaiman accepts that Nikaido's a sorcerer and decides to bite her head. But Risu obviously says that she's not the one. And he's like, "You're lying to me. Be honest here." And she says, "The person inside of your mouth is Risu. There you go. We are not the one. He is the one." But that's when In arrives to the area that they're at. Atsu decides to send them through a door to get them to a safer place. And yeah, he turns Birdhead into Nikaido so Nikaido doesn't look like she's gone and Birdhead is a stand-in. But Kaiman asks if Nikaido was a sorcerer, why did she go to the hole? And she explains that her magic got one of her friends killed. So she thought if she went to the hole, acted as a human, she can make up for her amends. And Kaiman's like, "Ah, that's cool and all, but I kind of hate sorcerers. A sorcerer did this to me. I've been attacked by plenty of sorcerers. But if you never use your magic again, we can be the best of friends like before." So they make a pinky promise that she'll never use her magic again. And that's the end to Dorohedoro Season 1. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I know the CGI might have scared a few of y'all from watching this, but if y'all like watching me and ended up watching this far, I hope I changed your mind on Dorohedoro. And y'all will be set for Season 2 in spring. I'm pretty sure that's when it's dropping. But that's all there is for me. Like, subscribe, join my Discord down in the description or comments. I don't know where it's at for real. And I'ma catch y'all in the next one.